So good morning, everyone. I hope you had a good night's sleep and that we are ready for the day 4 of this workshop, which is organized by Atal, and it is titled as Leading Self to Excellence, a journey from survival to significance. We are now starting session 10, which is Leading Others. So this is the first session in Leading Others series. But before we do that, let us do a quick review of what we have done till now. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
So a quick recap. So where did we start from on day 1? What was the first thing we did on day 1?
Habits.
What are habits? So we talked about what are habits and what are habits?
The 7 habits which are very essential.
Okay, how are habits formed? Any habit, how is a habit formed?
By repetition.
By repetition, okay. That is evident. What are the three key ingredients so that a habit establishes itself?
Knowledge, skills,
skill,
and behavior.
Knowledge, skill, and desire.
Desire.
Until we have the desire, this will not happen. Then we looked at, now this is in front of you in the screen itself. Then we looked at character ethic.
Yeah.
And we said that roots of effectiveness, that if we really want to be an effective human being, then we need to focus on our character ethic. Personality ethic is fine. It will be taken care of. But character ethic is something that we need to take care of. Then we looked at the concept of do-get cycle and the see-do-get cycle, the transactional and the transformational cycles, where we then talked about paradigm and paradigm shift. Then after that, what did we do?
Principles.
We added the concept of principles. So what are principles? Key characteristics of principles. Litmus test for principles. Identifying, differentiating principles from values.
Principles are universal laws.
Are universal.
They are universal.
Objective one.
They are objective.
And timeless.
They are timeless. They are at work, whether we understand them or not, whether we value them or not, they are still at work. Great. Whereas on the other hand, values would fail on, any value would fail on even one of these 4 or 5 axes. Then we looked at production and production capability. So what is production capability? What is production capability?
Turning negative incomes into positive outcomes.
Ooh, that is transition person. What is production capability?
To whatever we have, how much we are able to get the results, or how much we are able to
Effectiveness.
It was about effectiveness. Taking care of the goose that lays the golden egg. That was about production and production capability balance. We said that effectiveness is about not only getting the right results or desired results now, but getting them in such a way that we get better results in the future.
Don't burn too much.
I'm sorry?
Don't burn too much, something like that, no?
Yeah, don't burn out. Don't burn out. Take care of yourself.
Correct, correct.
Take care of yourself. And when we said that we are the goose that lays the golden eggs, what are the 4 dimensions that we talked about?
Body, heart, mind, and spirit.
Body, mind, heart, and spirit. Thank you. So then we looked at the last part of foundational principles, which is
Maturity continuum.
maturity continuum. What does it say?
Dependence to independence, then interdependence. Lowest
Yes, it
maturity
says
to
that-
highest maturity.
Yes, it says that all of us move from a state of dependence to independence to interdependence in different facets of our life. Sometimes we are dependent physically, sometimes we are dependent financially, sometimes we are dependent emotionally. So we move from that stage of dependence to independence to interdependence. And to be able to move from that stage of dependence to independence, we need what is called as private victory, which involves the first three habits. Which are the first three habits?
Be
proactive.
proactive. Begin with the end in
See
Begin
the
with the end in mind and
first things first.
put first things first. These three habits form a virtuous loop, and in that virtuous loop lies our private victory. Then to move from independence to interdependence, we need to have the other remaining three habits, which are, we will be doing these in the next 2 days. So what are these habits?
Think win-win.
Think win-win.
Seek first to understand, then to be understood,
Seek first to understand, then be understood,
and synchronize.
and synergize.
Synergize.
So these three habits also form a virtuous loop amongst themselves. In fact, when we will cover these three today, you will see that I cannot even see. I could talk about being proactive independently. I could talk about being begin with the end in mind independently. Okay, I had to refer to being proactive, but I could still talk of it without talking about the third habit too much. In these habits 4, 5, 6 today, you will notice that when we talk about them, I cannot even talk about habit 4 without bringing in aspects of habit 5 and habit 6. So these three habits are already interdependent, intertwined amongst each other. And we will see that today. So once we achieve public victory, we reach the stage of interdependence. And then we have habit 7, which is sharpen the saw, which ensures that we take care of all the 7 habits, all the 6 habits on a regular basis through discipline and through daily little investments on a daily basis, on a regular basis. Okay. Then what did we do? What was the next thing that we do? Which we did yesterday then. Yesterday, almost the entire, day before yesterday, almost the entire day we spent on
Habit 1.
habit 1, which is be proactive. The effective paradigm is I am a product of my choices. The tools that we had were pause and respond, where we looked at that 90-10 principle, the example of that coffee spilling over on the table when you were about to leave for office and stuff like that. Then we talked about 4 human endowments and the 2 secondary endowments. The 4 primary endowments are
Self-awareness,
self-awareness,
imagination,
conscience, and
will. Independent will.
Yes. And the secondary endowments are?
Resourceful and initiative.
Yes, we have to be resourceful and take the initiative to take benefit of these endowments. Then we talked about proactive language, how the words we choose kind of orient our brain in a particular way that we can be proactive or we end up being reactive. Then the next tool in being proactive we looked at was that of circle of influence and circle of concern. So where do proactive people focus on?
Center of influence.
On the circle of influence. And then after this, we talked about transition persons. Who are transition persons?
Convert negative influence into positive outcome.
Yes, these are proactive people who convert incoming negative patterns into outgoing positive patterns. They might have received hatred, but they give forward love. They might have received discrimination, but they give forward equality. We talked about Mahatma Gandhi. He was discriminated against. And what did he give forward? He said, no untouchability, no difference, no, gender inequality. He worked on bringing equality for everyone. So that is what is transition persons. And then on day 2, we did some Upayoga practices, the yoga tools, and we did that meditation on good health. Then what did we do yesterday, day 3?
We did habit 2, begin with the end in mind,
Vision statement.
or vision, the habit of vision.
Yes, we started with habit 2, where we said that it is begin with the end in mind. It is the habit of vision. And the principle is mental creation precedes physical creation. What is the effective paradigm over here?
I live by design.
I live by design. And what is an ineffective paradigm?
I live by default.
I live by default. Great. Then what did we do after that? We worked on our life mission statement. So how many of you actually had an opportunity to review your life mission statement in the evening after we closed the session? Those of you who could do something, just put a +1 in the chat window. Okay, so I'm happy. So many of you were able to spend some more time on the vision statement after we closed the session today. No problems. See, vision statement is something that I would request you to visit and revisit often. I would want you to refine it. I would want you to trim it down to something which is more, bite-sized, so that you can just paste it anywhere and aap usko dekhen, you look at it and you are inspired all at once. Surya, your hand is raised. You want to add something? You're on mute. We can't hear you if you're speaking something. Okay.
So I had a doubt, but I think we can clear it out after the this thing is over, the recap.
Okay.
Can I do it after that? Okay.
Yeah, sure. No problems. So after the life mission statement, we went to habit 3. What is habit 3?
First things first.
Put first things first. It is the habit of integrity and execution. What is the principle behind it?
Managing or segregating it based on the time frames, urgent and important.
Principle
Effectiveness
behind the
requires
habit.
the integrity to action your priorities.
Yes. Effectiveness requires the integrity to act on your priorities. So we looked at the effective paradigm of I put important things first. What is the ineffective paradigm? What do many people live by?
Urgent.
Urgent.
I put urgent things first. And why is it an ineffective paradigm? What does that represent?
It may not be so important or so useful for us.
Yes, it is other people's
Without that
priorities
also, yeah.
probably. They are distractions, and they waste our time. So to understand the difference between importance and urgency, we looked at the time quadrant matrix and we put some activities into all the 4 quadrants. So what are the 4 quadrants that we talked about? What is the quadrant first?
Necessity.
The quadrant of necessity. See, these are things which you have to necessarily take care of. They are like firefighting. They are like a situation, there is a medical emergency in the family, so you have to take care of it. So these things cannot wait. That is quadrant 1. That is the quadrant of necessity. You have to manage it, come whatever may. What is quadrant 2?
Effectiveness.
The quadrant 2 is the quadrant of effectiveness, where we do important things which are not urgent, which are like, let us look at a few examples. Some examples of Q2 activities.
Planning.
Preparation. Preventive checkups. Preventive
Improving
methods.
relationship. Working on
working
relationship.
on our relationships, value clarification, reading books, all that is the quadrant of effectiveness. Working on your life mission statement, that is Q2. Then what is Q3?
Deception.
Deception.
The quadrant of deception. Why do we call it the quadrant of deception?
Because we can avoid those things.
We can avoid it, but because it is urgent, we forget that these
forget,
can be
yeah.
avoided. This quadrant deceives us by appearing to be important also. By the virtue of its urgency, this quadrant deceives us to believe that it is also important. And we end up spending time and energy on this quadrant. So this is what we do not want. So that is why we call this a quadrant of deception. And we want to avoid this quadrant. Then what is Q4?
Waste.
The quadrant of excess and waste. What kind of activities come here?
About time waste and
Watching
all,
TV,
excessive
watching
TV,
excess TV.
internet, irrelevant phone
Excessive
calls.
TV, excessive Instagram, excessive Facebook, all that.
Yes, Twitter. Yeah.
है ना?
that's
So
it.
any
Sexual
wasteful thing would come here. And you will notice that people who spend a lot of time in Q1, they will end up spending a lot of time in Q4 also. They will toggle between Q1 and Q4. Those who spend time in Q2, they will reduce time spent in Q1 also. So how do we say, or how do we avoid quadrant 3? What do we need to do? We talked about that also.
We can focus more on quadrant 2 and we give some space for quadrant 1 also.
But how, like a friend has come for coffee, how do we say no to him or her?
We have to
We
check
can-
that whether it is important for the
Yeah.
friend
Yeah.
is on the urgency or is on the regular routine.
By looking at the approach words and the face expressions, we will be
So we
able
have to
observe
ask
that.
a first few questions. So we should not assume that anything that has come and it is urgent is also important. We have to clarify the importance by asking 1 or 2 questions very respectfully. Not in a challenging manner, very respectfully. And then when we have the answers, we can then also respectfully say, see, I'm working on this and this I believe is much more important than what you are suggesting. I will come back to you in half an hour. The person will not feel bad because his thing was not urgent. It was not really that important anyways. And it appears to be urgent to you, but probably it was not even urgent. It has happened with me many times, when my manager would have come to me and said, Anuj, please do this. I'm working on something important, and I would simply ask him, by when do you need it? Oh, give it to me by the end of this week. Now, this was Monday, and end of this week, I have 5 days. But because he came on my desk and gave that activity to me, I assumed it is to be done today. And you will realize that when you simply ask this question, by when do you need this to be done? You will realize that urgency thing would get clarified also. Just because someone came to your desk, just because someone has asked you, doesn't mean that this is urgent also. May not be. Then you can easily plan it. Are you able to see this? Because if it's to be given 5 days later, then you can plan it. Then it becomes Q2. You don't need to handle it as a crisis. You don't need to handle it as a Q3 also. Are you able to see this? Okay. So then what did we do after the time quadrant matrix? Hello?
The weekly chart of how to plan.
We looked at that video of Big Rocks. That when we review our life mission statement, our goals, our objectives, then what we define are the big rocks. And we realize that we have to place the big rocks first. Otherwise, the week will be filled by little gravel, pebbles, small pebbles. And the important things will get left out of that bucket. You remember that video? So we looked at that video of big rocks, and then using that analogy, we said that we would plan on a weekly basis. We would plan our big rocks first. So what are the 3 steps of planning?
your review mission and roles.
Hmm?
Select big rocks
Select
and
big rocks
schedule the week.
and schedule those big rocks first, and then schedule the remaining week. And we also agreed that we cannot fill the entire week by only Q2 activities. We have to leave space for Q1 and other trivia. Trivia will come. So you have to leave some space for that also. You cannot fill the entire week only with Q2. But you can plan your week, the remaining things afterwards. First plan the big rocks. Okay. After that, what did we do? We had a visitor. He talked about inner engineering.
Inner engineering.
Yeah. And what is inner engineering? What did he talk about? He said that just like we can control the external climate, the AC and everything by engineering in the outside world, we can manage the interior and interiority also in a meaningful way by managing, by engineering the inside world. And we looked at the chemical basis of happiness, of anxiety, of anger and everything, that everything has a chemical basis, that anything that happens at the psychological level results in a physiological impact also. So if you want good health, if you want pleasant joy and experiences, then we can create a chemistry. He talked about that, the pill that psychiatrists may give for handling anger issues or depression or stuff like that, and how if we can create that chemistry within ourselves, not dependent on those pills, external chemical pills, then we can always be joyful with it. And we basically, he took us through various exercises about how simple placement of hands, palms facing upwards versus downwards, can change our breathing patterns, and so on. Okay, so that was what we did yesterday, and today we will start from with private victory. But before we do that, I see that Surya's hand is raised. So Surya, you have a question? Please ask.
Good morning, Anuj. I just want to know, so I was just delving upon each of the habits, and I saw that each of the habits requires knowledge, skill, and desire, like you rightly pointed out. So, for example, proactivity. I was delving upon that, and I don't see any desire in me to cultivate proactivity, because I find that all around there's reactivity, and I mean, I don't. Can you suggest some ways as to how I can create that desire in me to be a proactive person?
So, are there aspects of life which challenge you, where you are disturbed or where you suffer because of external situations?
Yes, of course.
If you want that external situations do not impact you. So what happens when external situations impact you? You feel like a victim. Am I right? That is what being reactive is all about. Feeling like a victim, that, oh, he's doing this to me, that is doing this to me, someone else is doing all that stuff to me. And that will cause frustration, that will cause anger, that will cause anxiety, that will also spoil your relationships. So see, habit one is the basis. If there is no habit one, then everything else will be in disarray. So if you want that for you, external situations should not bother your interiority. If you want that, come whatever may, let whatever, see, every other human being is a
easier to
different
be
person.
reactive than being proactive. I mean, any habit, it's very difficult to cultivate. I saw that you may have now today, I may be having knowledge, I may be having skills since I've done the training also now, but then the desire again for planning also, the desire, mission state. Yes, where is the desire? I don't see the desire.
So see, you
So
have
maybe
to,
that I may help.
Yeah, see, that is where whenever we look at any habit, we look at what is the expected outcome when you start to live that habit. So what was the expected outcome when we started to, when we talked about living the habit 1? Do you remember?
No.
No? So let us look at that. Just give me a moment. Let us look at that. Let me just flash that slide again.
Anuj,
Yes.
can I share one minute self experience today?
Yes, please.
I was coming in car to my college. I stay around 25 kilometers away, and the first tire got some leakage of air. Then I asked my driver why it has not been observed. Then he said yesterday only observed, but I forgot to repair. Then had I not attended this session, I would have shouted at him. And your session has given me some change. Then I looked for alternatives. Fortunately, within 4 kilometers, there is some petrol bunk. So I got that repaired and I could reach the college. The day is very fine for me today. I just want to share.
So thank you for sharing.
Anuj, I would also like to add good morning, everyone. This is Kavalpreet. Anuj, so when I am dealing with my teenager daughter, the elder one, day before yesterday, when we were sharing about paradigms, right? So the reactive language and proactive language, mind your language. I can control my emotions, right? He or she made me sad. So somewhere, because she is working out and she's settling down and with the career and all, so she hardly gets time or hardly available to talk. And for me, it's when I talk to my girls, it's like the most beautiful time, right, of the day. So I was really badly, emotionally, I was trapped. And when I just imbibed this one line, I could remind myself, you won't believe I'm having goosebumps right now. So it's actually working. I just need to have that shift. I am mature enough and I can control paradigms. Like she might be busy and she's not in a right state of mind to talk. Why you pushing yourself and to your girl also? So it is actually working. So I'm so happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Kavalpreet. So, Surya, this was the slide for habit 1. So if we say that we want to be the creative force in our life, we want to have higher levels of initiative, we want to have more self-awareness, we want to be the one who is controlling our life. I am the product of my choices. I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm not a product of my surroundings. If we want to cultivate this, that I choose to be in a state that I choose to be in, even if I choose to be sad, it is my choice. My remote control is with me. My remote control is not with someone else. That is what habit 1 does. So do you want your remote control with yourself or do you want it with others?
Actually, I'm looking for a paradigm shift. I think that I need to change my paradigms, and I think I'll read more on paradigms now, because I think even prior to proactivity, those initial things are required to be really done.
Yes.
There is also one thing, if I can add, please.
Yes, Monica.
So what I feel is sometimes you feel this is like what we are understanding right now, being proactive and different habits, private victory. These are good principles. This is something which we are discussing, and it's been actually tested by others, and that's been shared with us. And it's not about believing this. I think it's about experimenting in our life. So if we get something good and we want to see its effect, we need to experiment daily in our life in some or the other instance. So when we experiment, we are more careful. Like when we are experimenting in chemistry or even in our research, we are very careful at every step. Like it's exactly the same. So, the more you experiment, you will find the results. And when you start finding results, you will automatically do it. So I think it's about just testing in our small instances So the desire comes only when we see the results, and that results will come only when we experiment. So it's a kind of vicious cycle. Maybe we just need to experiment, since most of us are researchers. So I think we would love experimenting things.
Thank you, Monica, for sharing. I think thank you for sharing that we need to start with a leap of faith. With a leap of faith that this is a book that has sold so many millions of copies. So many people vouch for it. So it is working for so many people. Let me experiment. It may work for me. We start with that leap of faith. And then thank you, Monica, for bringing in this perspective that as we will experiment, initial experimentation has to be done carefully. We need to analyze, even in chemistry, for example, we do an experiment and it fails. We know theory says something, but practically it failed. Why did it fail? We look at all the different chemicals that we added. We saw that was the purity in order. Did I did I heat it to the right temperature, and then did I add the second chemical? Did I titrate properly? So then we go back and review every step, and next time we experiment again, and next time it may be successful, it may again fail. Some new failure modes we will discover. But that's the spirit. That's the spirit where we see that, okay, we start with leap of faith. It has worked for so many people. It has made so many people live a better life. It will probably help me too.
Even in mathematics, we have let x is equal to y.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's the most important. We always solve the equations like this.
Yes.
So that's the equation of our life also. It has to be that way. So try and put it on principles, test it that way. So I think that leap of faith is required.
Thank you, Monica, for sharing that. Surya, does that help you? Surya, you're on mute.
Yes, Anuj. Sorry.
Okay, great. So, Rajeshwari, you also have your hand raised. You want to add something?
Yes, sir. Actually, I wanted to ask about the study materials, but before coming to that, thank you for this recap sessions, because this is very useful. Even if we miss here and there something else, we will be able to catch it up. At the same time, when we go through this recap, actually it is getting us more familiarizing with this concept. So thank you for that, first of all. Another important thing, when we are discussing about the remote control of our own happiness, when we keep it with us, we should also acquire the skill to use that remote control. Otherwise, keeping a remote control to use our own happiness, if we spoil it, we don't have the skill also, we'll go for a toss. So in that perspective, I would like to just ask you about, see, we are learning this for 5 years, but after this, we need to experiment, we need to practice a lot of things, then only we will be able to acquire the whole thing, and we'll become tuned to these kind of perspectives. So for that, in that particular perspective, is any videos? Of course, video links are available. You have shared the video links, but is the study material or this PPT or something else is there? Of course, we are taking down notes. That is there, but if these write-ups or some exercises, that we have,
That's the basic study material which I have used.
Okay, fine. Then thank you. I have that, because I told you, I worked with that particular topic to write a research paper of how these 7 habits are there with successful people. So I wrote a paper in that. So I have that book. So I'll refer to that.
So what can also help us, probably like this book. So this is a personal workbook.
Okay.
This has, if you will, like 7 Habits, the real book, or the book only has, what do you say, concepts and lots of text. So this is a kind of a workbook where these concepts are explained, but there are lots of spaces for you. You ask questions and there are lots of spaces for you to respond to those questions.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. I'll definitely
get this workbook also. It is also available on Amazon.
7 Principles of Effective People, right?
Yeah, it's that is the same thing. The title is the same, but it's personal workbook.
Okay, personal workbook. Okay.
Additionally, for many of us, as I mentioned, these the way the concept has been explained in one book may not really be as appealing to us. So what I personally did, was I actually read this Highly Effective Families book. I also read this teenagers book. My daughter is a teenager, so I read this teenagers book also. 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers. So the way these concepts are explained to different kinds of audience, I found that by reading it from these different perspectives, I could get a better understanding of these.
Fine.
So there is a similar workbook for teenagers also. So you can just, if you want to read more, you can use that reading material, which is abundantly available. In fact, he's done a real good job of providing different perspectives to the same topics. It's very beautiful indeed. Okay. So with this now, let's go to the next part. What is the next part? All of you forgot, huh?
Quiz.
Quiz.
You remember?
Yes, sir.
Quiz कैसे कोई भूल सकता है, हाँ? We are discussing something important, but even then quiz pops up. Quiz का link. अरे भाई, जो discussion चल रहा है उसको तो पहले लिख लो, उसको तो पहले समझ लो. So yes, we go to the quiz.
Yeah, sorry, sir, I just missed the last part, but thank you so much. My network got connected. I just went out of the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We're just talking about which all books to do and can help us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're always welcome.
Yeah.
So I'm copy pasting the link of the quiz in this chat window. You can please fill the quiz, and once you're done, please put a +1 in the chat window. Rutu, you have a question? I'm sorry, I just noticed your hand is raised.
Yes, very good morning.
Good morning.
I just wish to know whether would you be covering reflection, steps towards reflection, because reflection I do for myself as well as I have a small kid. So at night, I would want to inculcate this habit in him as to what you did in the day and how you would improvise yourself. So this reflection part, would you be covering in your session?
We can, but it is not a part of the program as of now, but we can talk about it when we talk about Habit 7.
Sure, thank you so much.
Can be part of Habit 7. We can talk about it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So please fill the quiz. Once you are done, please put a +1 in the chat window. So once you're done, please put a +1 in the chat window.
So thank you. The graph is improving on the marks side. First few days 2, 3, 4 and all. Now today I got 5 out of 5. Thank you for the recap session. That
the
really
recaps,
helped me.
yeah, the recaps have to be done. Otherwise, we will miss the.
Very
that.
true, very true. Thank you so much.
Atul, you wanted to ask something? Atul, you wanted to say something? So I see a lot of us have completed the quiz. Is it okay if we move forward? Hmm? Not yet. So once you're done, please put a +1. We'll just wait for another half a minute or so.
Very good morning, sir. I'm Geeta from Karikal.
Yes.
Actually, I got out of the net connectivity. That's why I couldn't receive the quiz link. Could you please post it again?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I've posted it now.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Alamelu, can we continue? Oh, great.
We can continue. Anuj, I have a question. This
Yes,
is Anita.
Yeah.
Anuj, I just wanted to know that question which was there in the quiz. I really did not understand that. It was to be effective, we should focus on Q1, Q2. Like what exactly you meant by that?
Yeah. So amongst the 4 quadrants, where should our focus be?
Definitely on the necessity. For according to the
Necessity.
necessity, we'll be doing what it is urgent and important. The very
That we
first
have
one.
to manage. See, those we have to manage. Our focus should be on effectiveness.
Effectiveness, yes.
If we focus on effectiveness, the necessity to handle these crises would also reduce because the number of crises would reduce. Do you realize?
True, true.
So firefighters, what do? Just so that they need to do lesser firefighting. What do? They go and check, they do these mock drills, they do preventive checks. They say that there is this regulation that in your college or anywhere in your housing complex, all these extinguishers have to be verified that they are fine. Every 6 months they have to be reviewed and everything. So all these preventive checks are put in place so that firefighting is not required. So where are they spending time? They are spending time in Q2. So Q2 is the quadrant where we focus. Q1 is something that we manage, and we have to manage. It is a quadrant of necessity. We manage. Q3 we avoid, and Q4 we limit.
Thank you, Anuj, for recapitulating it. And I had one more thing to discuss. Actually, I have got a class at 12 o'clock. So today it will be like, will it be a recess time at that moment or?
Yeah, so our present session started at 9:30. So we'll close this session at 11:30. 12 is the time the next session will start.
We will begin.
Yeah, we will begin the next session at 12. And we may be probably closing habit 4 when we start, or we will be starting with habit 5 when we start there.
All right, then let me see if I could manage from something or. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, yeah. So again, I understand that quite a few of you have classes today. It's not a holiday for many of you. So the recordings, as you must have noticed, I already put the recordings before the evening ends. Before the evening, the recordings are already there. So if you miss some key topics, you can just go back to the recording, check, get up to date so that tomorrow you can be then fully involved again. That is the intent of putting the recordings every day. Otherwise, what's the point? I can put all the recordings later also. The intent is that if you miss something, if you want to review something that we discussed because of internet connectivity issues or because of any other issues, if you are unable to capture some idea, you want a clarification of some idea, you can view the recording on the evening itself. So I try to put the recordings up before 6 or 7 p.m. So you can just, spend some time after that. Okay, so now we move from private victory to public victory. But before we do that, see, just like before we entered into the zone of private victory, what did we do? We spent time on some foundational principles. So before we enter into this zone of public victory, we need to spend a little bit of time on an additional foundational principle. And that foundational principle is called emotional bank account. See, when we talk of relationships, we hold what Stephen calls as emotional bank account or relationship bank account in every relationship. So your relationship with your first child, your relationship with your second child, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your parents, your in-laws, your siblings, your co-brothers, sister-in-laws, everything, every person you hold any relationship with, your relationship with your manager, with your subordinates, with your team members, with your peers, every relationship that we have, there is an emotional bank account that we open with those people. Wherever we talk of a relationship, Stephen says we have an emotional bank account. So were you aware that you have so many bank accounts with you? So many bank accounts you are holding at any point of time. So what do these bank accounts look like? So these bank accounts are special bank accounts. They are one-to-one first. And okay, how are they different from the regular bank accounts? Let us look at it like this. See, today Rajeshwari goes to Axis Bank. Rajeshwari, you have an account with Axis Bank. Which bank do you have an account with?
SBI.
SBI. So Rajeshwari goes to SBI. She says, I want to deposit 10 rupees. SBI will say, okay, give me 10 rupees. And it will update the passbook of Rajeshwari and say that, okay, Rajeshwari's bank balance has increased by 10 rupees. Simple. Anyone else who has a bank account which financial bank account which operates differently? That you go, I want to deposit 5 rupees and they deposit 10 rupees instead. Or you say, I want to withdraw 20 rupees and they deposit 20 rupees instead. Anyone has that kind of a wonderful account? No. All of us, the financial bank accounts that we hold, those financial bank accounts, simply whatever we deposit, that is it. That is the fact and that is what it is. Now, emotional bank accounts are very different though. Emotional bank accounts have a special currency. And this currency is decided by the banker, not by you. What is this currency? This currency is actions. Actions which help you to establish a stronger relationship. How many of you like watching movies? Anyone who likes watching movies, put a +2 in the chat window. In a cinema hall, let us say. Okay. Dipali likes. So let us say Dipali likes watching movies, and anyone who does not like watching movies, who says movies are a waste of time, put a +3 in the chat window. Anyone who does not like watching movies, please put a +3 in the chat window. Oh, all of you like movies? Okay. Durdana says that Durdana doesn't like watching movies. Now, Laboni likes watching movies. Durdana doesn't. Laboni thinks that to build a good relationship with Durdana, I will take Durdana to a movie. So I'm building a relationship with Durdana. So let me take Durdana to a movie. That is what Laboni says. Now, is that a relationship building exercise for Durdana or a relationship breaking exercise for Durdana? For Durdana, this is no longer a deposit. So the bank account in which Laboni wanted to deposit something, that bank account actually withdrew. What movie? Now, how many of you like romantic movies? Those who like movies, only you tell me. How many of you like romantic movies? Put a +2 in the chat window. Okay. Now, how many of you like action movies? Or how many of you hate romantic movies? Let us put it like that. Put a +4 in the chat window. Those who hate romantic movies, put a +4 in the chat window. Okay. So Swetanjali likes romantic movies. KPS does not like, hates romantic movies. So they both like movies, but now the genre is different. So Swetanjali takes KPS to a romantic movie. What is happening? Is that a deposit or a withdrawal? A withdrawal. So so in this bank, in this emotional bank account, the person, the banker, holds the currency. What is a withdrawal? What is a deposit? That person decides. You don't decide. You may do whatever you like. But if you really want to make a deposit into an emotional bank account, you should be doing what the other person likes. Now, do you want to make deposits in every relationship that you have? Or you want to focus only on a few relationships that are of value to you? Is there one answer to this? Depends on our mission statement. Some of us may be private people. Someone may say that, okay, what that third, fourth person whose name I do not remember thinks about me, I don't bother. Someone else says, oh, I want to have a good reputation in my college, so let me give a party every time I have my birthday. So he throws a large party, invites 100 people. Can't even talk to 100 people in the party. But even then, 100 people are invited to that party. So depends on what kind of mission statement you have. But one thing is for sure, that for some people at least, there are these emotional bank accounts that are important to us. Am I right? So, and whether something is a deposit or a withdrawal in that emotional bank account is decided by that person. Now, tell me one thing. I do not like X thing, you know. I suppose I do not like people telling me lies. There is another thing. I do not like people discriminating against me, you know, treating me unfairly because they are biased. Then I do not like people breaking commitments. So there are these three things that I do not like. Now what happens when these three things are there that I do not like? What happens? Suppose someone tells something which is false, but that topic about which he told something false was not very important to me. Will I deduct equal amount of money or equal amount of currency from my bank account versus if that topic was really close to my heart or was the basis of our relationship in the first place? So not only does the bank holder decide whether a transaction is a withdrawal or a deposit, the banker also decides here how much to withdraw. You made only one withdrawal from your side. मैंने तो एक छोटा सा झूठ बोला था. I just told a small little lie. But for that particular person, that small little lie could mean a world. And it could be considered as a huge withdrawal.
Anuj,
yes.
Yeah, my point is actually I have my bank account where I will be having a very less amount of withdrawal, then the bank will never think of it and they don't have my interactions. And normally, you know, if I have an big withdrawal, like something for 1 lakh in my account, that is my savings account actually. You know, my savings account, if I want urgently to take a medical expenses or whatever it may be, to take my account, which is 1 lakh from my account, the banker have the negative interaction on me, stating that you have to provide your other card, you have to provide that on those things. Those things is already there in the bank, but they are asking. So what is a kind of this, you know, when we have a positive interaction now, very small, and when consistency that I'm getting a very small amount on time, when my account is having the savings account of 1 lakh, when I'm getting that big withdrawal, why it is a negative interaction? And I don't understand the positive and negative balances is happening here.
Yeah, you tell me. Now let us reflect.
You can do a grand gesture that would be expecting from you, please.
Yeah, let us reflect within ourselves. Let us say, so are you married?
Yes, I'm married.
You're married. Okay. So can I assume that you have a wonderful, beautiful relationship with your wife?
You can assume.
Yeah, but so we assume that. So let us say that any relationship that you have absolutely fantastic, you know, it's going absolutely fantastic, gung-ho, then you missed one commitment, you got busy with work, you forgot to call back. What happens? Does this person bother?
Yes, of course they bother me more than the positive things.
Look at it like this. Look at it like this. Suppose you have a beautiful relationship with some person. On one particular day, this person said, I would call, but forgot to call or did not call. What would you do? Would you hold a grudge against him or her? Or would you say, that person forgot to call me, let me call him or her?
No, that right. And that time I have an enormous bad relationship on him on the day that he is not picking up a call.
So even if the relationship every day is very, very good, you know, you have a 20-year-old relationship, this person has always been meeting commitments. One day he forgets to call you, you will say, oh, this is a terrible person, I will not want to talk to him. Will it be that case?
That's a very difficult time that we need to think and balance ourselves.
So 20 years, this person has been meeting all the commitments, has been with you through thick and thin. One day, if he did not call you, would you be worried that why did he not call me? Or would you be angry with him that, oh, he did not call me?
I have to leave him because we have 20 years of positive relationship with it. Then why should I have to worry about it? I should
No,
not worry.
see, I think I would be worried. Oh, this person always
Yes, of
calls me
course.
on time,
Yes, yes,
and
worried,
today
but
he
I
has not
should not be
called.
worried. That is an expectation.
So since there is a 20-year relationship, you would say, okay, let it be. कुछ हो गया होगा. Something important must have come. That is why he forgot to call. That is why I did not call. In fact, let me call to find out if I can help in some way.
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Now imagine there is this new faculty who is joining your department. Just 1 month back he joined. You hardly interacted with him. Just heard his name. Now he says, I will call you at 12. You had to shift something from 12 to 1:30 so that you could attend his call. But this person did not call. Now what would be your response?
I always see that their integrity is bad. Right.
Immediately you will say, oh, this person, he's no good.
Good. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So what was happening? For the relationship which you had a 20 years background and the relationship is going well, you had a very, very rich bank account with that person. Whereas this new relationship, this is only forming. There are hardly any deposits.
Yes, you're right.
Yes. The first person also made a withdrawal. This person also made a withdrawal. For the first person, you did not even consider it as a withdrawal. Okay, it was a withdrawal, but you said, okay, let me call. Second person, you said, oh, he wasted my time. I had done so much to shift my meeting and do everything, and he did not even call. I will teach him a lesson. Huh? Can happen.
Yes, yes. So you're saying that expression on every expression that express the person's appreciation is every day, that should happen with mindfully. Yes.
So what I'm saying is that if we maintain rich emotional bank accounts with key people in our lives, then even small misses here and there will not bother us or bother them.
Yes, yes.
But if the relationship is already tentative, on the tenterhooks, even a small withdrawal can completely break the relationship.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
You may think I did just this, but for that person, there was already no bank balance there. Even a little withdrawal, that person completely crashed. The account completely crashed. It went into the negative zone.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Completely agree.
Can I add one line?
Yes, Eshu, please.
Is it human behavior to focus on small things, exaggerate small mistakes, and look through magnifying lens?
That is a behavior. But is that a default behavior? We do not know. And can we change it? We know. I was mentioning about this benefit of doubt thing. Even in this rich bank account wala case, you would give benefit of doubt and you would rather call this person. Yaar, what happened? He did not call. So it is not a default behavior issue. When the relationship is not good, then someone may gravitate towards it. Are you able to see this? Okay. So there are these key features of this emotional bank account that that we need to be aware of.
Sorry to interrupt, but I did not get it.
Yeah, please tell me, where is the problem? Yeah, what was not clear?
What you just said right now, that even if it is not good, so what do we do?
Okay, so we need to make deposits. If the relationship is not good, then instead of withdrawals, we need to make deposits so that the account becomes richer. That is what you would do in your regular bank account also, na? That way it is like a regular financial account. You need to make deposits, but who decides what the deposits are? Who decides these deposits? The banker, not you. The banker decides what is the deposit, not you.
So the other person will decide.
Yes. So if you really wish to make a deposit, you need to spend time and energy in understanding what is a deposit for the other person. And then you need to make that deposit. that is when the relationship will flourish. Nicola, does that help?
Yes, sir. It does help.
Okay. So now let us just listen to Stephen, how he explains emotional bank account, and then we will look at some things which are universally deposits and some things which are universally withdrawals. So whoever it is, you know, for many things like which movie, thriller or romantic or action, it could be a withdrawal which would depend on person to person. So here we say that, okay, the person decides whether it's a withdrawal or a deposit. But some things I assure you are always withdrawals. And some things you will notice are always deposits. So what are those things? We will see just after this video. In fact, Stephen will talk a little bit about them and we will discuss them in more detail after this video. Okay.
Got it.
Now, I'd like to introduce you to a concept called the emotional bank account. You know what a financial bank account is. If you were my banker and I were to make many, many deposits into this bank account, it would gradually get larger and larger. I could even take withdrawals from it, but I have great reserve capacity. An emotional bank account is like that as well. You could make many, many deposits over a period of time, which would build my reserve capacity with you. If I make a mistake, that is a small withdrawal. And the trust is so high, I still have a huge reserve capacity. If I make a huge mistake that violates, in the deepest sense, our agreement, it may cause the emotional bank account to be overdrawn all at one time, see? The concept of the emotional bank account is the production capability side of human relationships, of human interaction. Now, any metaphor, if pushed far enough, will tend to break down, including this one. You don't make deposits in order to take withdrawals. Nevertheless, if you have a high emotional bank account, if the quality of that relationship is so good and the trust is so high, you can, in fact, make mistakes. You can take withdrawals, not on purpose, but often unwittingly, unknowingly, because of insensitivity or whatever. But people understand. Just to illustrate, how many have a high emotional bank account with somebody, a trust relationship with someone? Think of that person, that it is so high, you can communicate with them almost without words. Can you think of people? How many have such a high emotional bank account that you can even make mistakes in your communication and they'll still get your meaning? Why? They know your heart. They know what you represent. Now the opposite. How many have a relationship with someone that is really strained, where the trust isn't there, where the emotional bank account is overdrawn? How many have had that in your life or now have one of those in your life? Now what happens when you communicate? What happens when you are very clear in your communication? It won't take. They're always looking for the hidden agendas. They're reading between the lines. What's going on here really? And if you make a small mistake, boy, that thing can be blown all out of proportion. Talk about drowning in a puddle. Talk about exacerbating some small little weakness into a major character flaw or something like that. What originally began as just simple misunderstandings are exacerbated until they become major communication breakdowns. Some people even call them personality conflicts. I was doing a seminar one time on the Oregon coastline. It was so beautiful that we actually held our meetings outside. People just wanted to be immersed in this nature. A lovely day, it was warm. One man came up to me afterwards and said, "Oh boy, I wish I could enjoy these things, that I just can't." What's the problem? Well, I don't know, my wife just grills me like you can't believe. I mean, she just doesn't trust me, and she constantly, examines every part of my life. Where have you been? What did you do? Who did you go with? What did you do tonight? Who'd you go to dinner with? And who can I call to check up on all this? And then we talked a little while, and then he said, "Of course, I guess she has good reason for all these misgivings. I mean, I met her when I was on one of these trips when I was married to someone else." And I remember saying to him, "You cannot talk yourself out of problems you behave yourself into. There is no shortcut. There is no quick fix. The law of the harvest governs."
So we saw what an emotional bank account is we heard about it from Stephen himself. Now, can you tell me what are always deposits? Some ideas?
Trust.
Trust. So we pose in someone. Respect. Yes, thank you.
Love.
Love. Yes, thank you. Understanding.
Mindful. Be mindful.
Understanding.
Being considerate. Being mindful. Being considerate. Yes.
Thanking someone.
Empathy.
Expressing gratitude. Empathy. Yes. Trying to understand the person instead of saying that, "Oh, you are this or that."
Concerns.
Concerns. What do you mean by that, Adeshwari?
No, we give them consideration, or we.
Yeah, being considerate, being
Yeah.
caring, being considerate.
Giving benefit of doubt.
Giving benefit of doubt, being kind. Yes.
To appreciate daily, every day. I mean, every day.
Yeah, appreciating. Appreciate. Whenever you appreciate, if you appreciate very often, great. Otherwise, appreciating. See, keeping promises is always a deposit. Breaking them is always a withdrawal. Are you able to see this? Being kind is a deposit. Being selfish is almost always a withdrawal. Being loyal, always a deposit. Gossiping behind someone's back, it's a withdrawal. See, many times we think that, to build a new relationship, suppose, there is a person who we want to forge a relationship with. We think that, oh, if we tell some, gossip about some third person, or tell some secrets about this third person to this person who we are intending to build a relationship, we think we are making a deposit. Has it happened to you? Are you aware of such people who think that, or maybe we also do it sometimes? And so just put a +1 in the chat window if this is something that you have done or you believe other people do. Gossiping behind someone else's back, talking about someone, and trying to build a relationship with this third person. So it happens quite often. We've seen people doing it. Many times we also end up doing it. We believe we are making deposits, but in reality, we are making withdrawals. Has it ever happened with you that the word got around and this person now knows that you were backbiting and your relationship suffered? Has it happened with you ever? You can put a +2 in the chat window. Or have you seen this happening to someone else? Even then put a +2. So you saw someone gossip in front of someone else, or something happened. The word got around, this person got to know, and the relationship is now worse. So So you were trying to make a deposit with someone X, and you made a withdrawal with the third person who you were disloyal to. And what about this person X who you were trying to make a deposit with? Do you think this person will now tell you his or her secrets? No. For this person, you were disloyal to another friend of yours. Someone who shared their secret with you, you were disloyal to them. Why will I share my secret with you now? You will be disloyal to me tomorrow. So while in my mind, I was making a deposit by gossiping and by being disloyal, by backbiting someone, everywhere, universally, it is a withdrawal. To the person who you were backbiting for or against, that is a withdrawal, obviously. And to the person who you were backbiting with, again, it is a withdrawal. Being loyal is always a deposit. It may appear to be a withdrawal. Someone is complaining about some third person. You either do not say anything, or you say, oh, that person may have a motive behind it. There must be some reason. Let us try to find that reason out. That person may feel offended as of now. Oh, I am trying to say, I am complaining about that person, and this person is taking his or her side. It may appear to be like that, but take it from me. In some time later, this person will only feel better. Oh, and even if I'm not there, you will take my side. You will try to see my perspective. You will not shortchange me with anyone else. Huh?
False promises.
Yeah, false promises means breaking promises is always a withdrawal. Appreciating is always a deposit. Forgiving is always a deposit. Apologizing is deposit. Criticizing in public, definitely a withdrawal. Seek to understand first is a deposit. Seek to be understood first. No. You stop. First understand me. That is a withdrawal. Setting clear expectations is always a deposit. Setting false expectations. Oh, I will do this for you. Please just wait for one day. I know I am going to be out of station next day, but I said, please wait for one day. I will do it for you tomorrow. I'm not even in town tomorrow. How will I do it? This clearly is a withdrawal. So setting false expectation is always a withdrawal. Okay. So do we think that with this list, we can actually work on any relationship now and make deposits there? At least these much are always deposits. Even when you do not know the other person very well, by being the person on the left side, you can always make deposits. Huh?
Anuj, can I ask you a question?
Yes, Surya.
So some person can be, in a position of authority and will always be praised in the presence of the other. So, for example, a student will keep praising the teacher. And so can we say that praise, appreciation is another thing, but praising someone is a deposit with that person, of course, because everybody loves to be, praised. Even though, so for example, a teacher knows that he doesn't teach well or doesn't teach at all, and the student says he's the best teacher in the town. So what do you say to that? It is a deposit with the teacher in any case.
Yeah, this is a deposit with the teacher.
Because most of the people are earning their livelihood with this praises. So
see, appreciation as we listed is always a deposit.
Yes.
But come to think of it differently. Come to think of another friend who is with this person, with this student. What is this? While the student is making a deposit with the professor there, is he also making a deposit with the friend? If the praise is only false on the face, then what will he do? As soon as he gets out of the room, what will he say? Oh, this professor, he doesn't know anything. I just have to praise him to keep him happy. What has he done? He has started to gossip. Gossip is always a withdrawal. Sooner or later, the word will get around and the professor will know. So false appreciation may be a deposit initially, but you know, the withdrawal that will happen when the professor knows he's gossiping behind my back, that will be worse. The professor will decide to withdraw much more than whatever was deposited by appreciation. Is it not?
Yes, yes.
So shortcuts won't help actually. See, habit 1 therefore precedes any of this. What is habit 1 mean? The private victory precedes any of this. What does private victory do? It establishes us in ourselves. It makes us upright. It builds our character. It makes us a person of integrity. It establishes us within ourselves that, oh, it is by planning to work hard. It is by planning to, and it is by working hard. It is by planning to get good marks. It is by doing all that that I will get a good grade. Not by, being a sycophant in front of this person. So private victory, therefore, is essential before we enter into the zone of public victory. This list can be used in the way that you mentioned, Surya. But it will not take us anywhere. Someone may want to use it as a cheat sheet, but that is, if he or she is only cheating, we will not go too far. Does this help?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So the cheat sheet will not work. The approach has to be inside out. Cannot be outside in. When you appreciate, that appreciation has to come from your heart. That gratitude you should genuinely feel. Then it makes a difference. If you are superficial in your interactions, then it won't help. Anywhere. Okay. So now we come to the...
Sir, I have one doubt in this.
Yes, Rajeshwari.
Sir, so when we try to increase our deposits and we try to avoid our withdrawals, right? Normally when we built up a good relationship. But in that particular case, if the other person is withdrawing too much from our relationship and they are not able to deposit more. So in that particular case, how can we improve our deposits?
So we are coming to the public victory side. We are coming into habit 4. So we'll just enter into that.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
This is a foundational principle. This is a concept.
Okay.
Now you are looking for a solution.
Okay.
Solutions come with the habits.
Okay, fine. Because since we start working on this, we may improve, but the other person might not know this. And
we'll just come to that. We'll just come to
okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So but because we've already discussed, I would like to take you to that example of Parvati trying to pull that scorpion out of that water. Remember that? So the other person may do something, we would still want to exhibit, live out of our character.
Okay.
Because our character is defined by what we do, not by what another person does.
Yeah.
So that is, let this be with you. And now what tools to use to help the other person also come around, or if the other person simply doesn't come around, then what to do, that we can look at in the habit 4.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So anything else on EBA? Otherwise we move to habit 4 then. Okay. So habit 4 is, what is the habit 4? Think win-win. It is the habit of mutual benefit. So what is the principle behind this habit? The principle is that effective long-term relationships require mutual trust and mutual respect. So if you just look at the principle, suppose you are visiting a new city and you want to go on auto with somewhere to some place, The city does not have a good metering system like Delhi. Delhi does not have a good metering system. People simply don't go by meter. They simply ask you some amount of money. Now, when you're negotiating with this auto wala, would you think win-win? Would you think win-win when you are negotiating with an auto wala? No. You're not looking for a long-term relationship. This is just a small transactional interaction. You would want that whatever is fair should happen. We just need to go by the meter. Or even if I can squeeze it to below the meter value, let me do that. Let me save my money. So you're not thinking win-win with an auto wala, with someone who you have a transitionary relationship. You went to a bank to deposit, to just check on something. You know that you're not even going to visit that bank again ever. This is a branch which is not your home branch. You don't want to build a relationship there. Are you thinking win-win? No. So some little transient transactions, you're not thinking win-win. The principle or win-win relationships, that investment has to be made only and only when we are looking at long-term relationships. Long-term relationships which we value need to be effective. You want valuable relationships, any relationship that you value to be effective, na? It is then that you're looking for mutual trust and mutual respect. Without mutual trust and mutual respect, these relationships cannot be effective. They cannot be joyful. That is the principle. So what is an ineffective paradigm? Why do people not live a win-win lifestyle? Why do people end up lose-lose, win, whatever, but win-win? Why do people accept any other thing than win-win? Because they may be living by a paradigm that there is only so much. So more you get, less is there for me. So there is this, suppose, you got a pizza for a party, just one pizza, 3 people. There is only so much. And the more someone else takes, the less you get. So scarcity. Now, if there was just one pizza and 3 people, very hungry people, that scarcity makes sense. But that is not the reality of life at all times. An effective paradigm is that there is plenty out there for everyone and more to spare. Abundance mentality. Now, see, when it comes in terms of physical resources, pizza or number of rooms or all that, yes, you may actually have some scarcity. But when it comes for emotional resources, let us say, or when it comes for respect, when it comes for any other aspect, anything which is non-physical, knowledge, love, anything, is there any limit to how much love you can give out to anyone? Is there a limit to how many people you can appreciate in a day? You can appreciate everyone, is it not? So if I appreciate person X, why should person Y feel offended? I can also appreciate person Y. Have you seen people getting worried, getting anxious because one of their friends got appreciated and they did not get the appreciation? So they are operating from a scarcity mentality. Why should they be worried? They should rather enjoy, relish. Oh, my friend got appreciated. If I work hard, I will also get the appreciation. So the effective paradigm is there is plenty out there for everyone. And there is more to spare. More people can join in. That is the abundance mentality. Okay. So even with physical resources, you can to some extent try abundance mentality, though I would say for the sake of the environment, let us live for physical resources with scarcity mentality. But with every other resource, whether it is emotional, whether it is mental, knowledge, whether it is spiritual, there is just abundance of it. Can I say that, oh, only one person can be enlightened in this world at a time? No. Each one of us can be enlightened. So why constrain spiritual knowledge? Why constrain, limit spiritual experience for people? So if we base our lives on this abundance mentality, on this paradigm of plentiness out there, and that there is sufficient for everyone and there is even more to spare, let more people come, even then I can give more love. That is abundance mentality. So that is the effective paradigm that people who achieve win-win live by. Now, what does win-win require? The tools for win-win are balancing courage and consideration. We'll come to this. Seeking mutual benefit. I think this is fairly evident. When you're seeking win-win, when you're trying to achieve win-win, you have to see benefit of both. Creating win-win agreements. So we'll discuss about this also. What are the key ingredients of a win-win agreement? And build win-win systems. So when we talk about win-win agreements, let us also talk about win-win systems there, because we as faculty have a very important role to play to make these win-win systems, at least for our classes, to introduce win-win and this abundance mentality to at least our students. Then what are the results? The results are, if we go by this win-win mentality with this win-win approach, we get faster solutions to problems. We ensure, we in fact would obviously have more team involvement. We will have more generosity of spirit. When I'm loving people without any barriers, I'm not saying I can love only my child. I will love everyone, all of my child's friends also. Every other child who I find on the street, I can be loving to him or her also. Is it not? A child is a child. So I can be that. And then what happens? I have a generosity of spirit. And I also build rich relationships. Are you able to see this? Any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Yes, Ritu.
So when you say that generosity of spirit and you give the example of looking all the childs with the same eye, even if it is yours or others, what happens is like my child just yesterday, the cousins were playing and the cousin happened to hit my child. So acting on the spirit of generosity, both the childs are, I saw them equal. But in this, my child thought that, okay, why is my mom not taking my side? Because the cousin's mom did take his side. So then in this case, what happens is, though I'm acting on my principles of generosity of spirit, the person on whom my actions are having an effect took it the other way, and his spirits got to some degree, he was little taken aback as to why my mom is not doing it. So in a way, I'm hampering his emotional spirit.
Okay, thank you for bringing this up, Ritu. This is so beautiful an example, and this is so close to you, because it is about our child. So first thing we need to realize is, where is the child in this maturity continuum? Where is the child, Abhi? He is dependent on you for his emotional security, is it not?
Yes.
So to expect the child to be mature and understand principles and everything, it's a bit too much.
Yes, absolutely. I do agree.
So he will feel bad.
Yes.
When you do this. Now, what should you do?
Okay.
You still, for the child, you have to establish the principle of fairness. For the child, you have to still give him the right value, the right principle-oriented value. So if whatever the child does, you will always support the child, what happens? You will only spoil your child. As a parent, it is our responsibility to scold the child also at times. The child will feel bad, yes. But then we go back to him or her and tell them that, dekho beta, at that point of time, you did this, which was wrong. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I really love you. No. So I really love you, but that thing is something I do not accept because you are being unfair, or you are being harsh, you are being rude, you are not being kind. So when I scold a child, that doesn't mean I do not love him. And that is what you need to reinforce to the child. That I love you nevertheless. But that is something that I do not accept. You did that, even then I love you. My love for you is unconditional. My love for you is unconditional. But that is one thing I do not accept. You cannot be hitting another person. Are you able to see this?
Yes, but my question was, if the other child is hitting my child, and I still tell him that, okay, fine, he is your brother or your cousin.
So then you are being unfair. You have to tell the other child to not to do it. Then just because this is your child, you tell him to shut up and get the beating. This is not right. Is it right? You tell me.
Then how do you convey it to your child as to how to take it? Because you cannot tell your child to hit him back. So then what do you tell your child?
So you tell him, we will just come to it now. This is the most appropriate time to talk about this. We will come to the courage consideration matrix. We're talking about how to handle this. So this is the first tool in win-win. So just wait for a very little while, Ritu. We're just coming to that. But in the meanwhile, for everyone else also, is it okay if we say that we have to demonstrate integrity to our children?
Yes.
Alignment with principles to our children. So we will need to scold our children every now and then. But we will have to reinforce to them that we love them nevertheless. Our love for them has not diminished because we scolded them. That scolding was because we did not accept that behavior from them. Because the child is emotionally dependent on us. For that emotional security, that child is dependent on us, is it not? So it is our responsibility to make him secure, feel secure. And that will happen. That deposit will happen by only unconditional love. Unconditional love means insisting and reinforcing the child, I love you. I love you, but this behavior is unacceptable. So now we come to how to handle this situation when we have, a situation where my child has been beaten up by someone else, and I need to do something about it. I need to guide my child how to handle this. So the situation over here is that with every relationship, we have an EVA, and we also have this relationship matrix. What is this relationship matrix? This has two axes, an axis of courage and an axis of consideration. So what happens when I'm low on, or when I'm very high on courage but very low on consideration? What would happen? Very high on courage, I am very sensitive about my needs. I am very explicit about my needs. मुझे तो ये चाहिए.
Selfish.
But about other person's needs, I'm not bothered. I'm low on consideration. What happens?
You become a selfish person.
I'm being a selfish person. What is the nature of this relationship now?
Lose-win.
No, I win, you lose.
Win-lose.
The relationship is I win, you lose. So I win, you lose, with their saying spoils the relationship. But the characteristic is win-lose. What if consideration is very high and courage is very low? Oh, you do whatever to me. You trample over me. I will not do anything.
Absolutely. Still lose-win.
Now it is lose-win. I lose, you win. Now, as Vidya said, win-lose will deteriorate into lose-lose, because I will say this relationship is no good. I will walk out of the relationship. What happens in the lose-win? See, sometimes you will lose, but after some time, your whistle will also blow off. Your fuse will also blow out. So you will say, oh, to heck with it. I'm not going to take this crap any longer. So you will walk out of the relationship then. So in the first one, the other person walked out. In the second one, you walked out. Both relationships broke. We enter into a lose-lose territory. Now both of us could not benefit from each other's skills, competence, social relationship, influence, whatever. We have lost the opportunity. So we ended up in the lose-lose. What happens when have you seen relationships which are low on courage and also low on consideration? So I know there are a few lawyers in this group. Have you seen a divorce litigation happening, contested divorce litigation happening? What is happening? Both parties are trying to hit below the belt to the other party. Both are losing. They are low on consideration for the other party, and they are low on courage also. They're not courageous enough to say, okay, I will be right, yes. So you have a lose-lose situation. Now, only when you are high on courage and high on consideration can you enter a win-win. Lose-win and win-lose will be lose-lose. Only this quadrant, high on courage and high on consideration, is a win-win, is a quadrant of effective relationships. Now coming to Rutu's question. What to do with this child? Now this child has beaten up my child and my child is crying, and that child, I need to do something. So what do you need to do? You need to be high on courage and you need to be high on consideration. So while you say, talk lovingly to the other child also, but you are high on courage. You tell him that, beta, you did wrong. Hitting is not allowed. If needed, if the child doesn't understand, if needed, you can reach out to the parents also. Only if needed. But first, try to help that child grow up. Are you with me? Vishnupriya, you want to say something? Okay. So that is one way. What could be another response that you can tell your child about how to handle such a relationship? What can you tell your child? Vishnupriya, we are not able to hear you. If you want to say something, we are not able to hear you yet. So how would you handle the situation with your child now? What will you tell your child? What is the courage situation for your child? Should he take the beating like this? Should he hit back? What should he do?
He should not take the beating. At the same time, he should not hit back also. He should somehow defend, not to get hurt. And we should tell our children like how not to trigger the other person, so that this entire situation can be avoided.
Okay. Any other responses? So this is one response, yes.
So I think this is a very typical situation in many, in kids when they are playing in colonies, especially. So I think either a child who is fond of beating other kids all the kids can be more assertive and say that if he beats or if is physically violent, they will not play with him. So that is one way to handle such a child. The other, of course, can be that if he hits all the children can go together to his parents, because the parents should not it should be brought into knowledge of the parents also. But I think the children who are becoming victims should not involve their parents generally. Otherwise, it becomes a parent fight rather than kids fight. So
yes. We want to make the child responsible. We want to teach habit win-win to our children also, is it not? So we don't want them to fall back on the parents. Yes, they are dependent on us, but we have to somehow empower them to think of managing this independently also. So thank you, Surya, for sharing that. The children can themselves get together and say, oh, bullying is not allowed. If someone has this behavior, he will not play 2 matches. So that is a consequence, natural consequence, that the children have decided amongst themselves and given to the bully. Now, if the person is not really a bully, it is just that it happened once that this person hit, the child should immediately say that, courageously ask, why did you hit me? This was unwarranted. And tell that it hurt. See, at times, many of our children are watching things like Tom and Jerry and all these cartoons where, these are very violent cartoons. They may appear to be funny, but just look at it. What does Tom do? Huck, a big hammer on the head of Jerry. Jerry gets flattened, and then the next scene, Jerry is up again. So children do not realize that this is fiction. This doesn't happen. If you hit someone, there is a hurt, there is pain. And while a cartoon can just stand up in the next scene, a human being cannot. So we need to be careful. We cannot just do a blame game thing to the other child. We cannot really scold the other child also without really understanding where he or she is coming from. We need to make him or her understand that, beta, when you hit someone, it hurts the other person. It is not right. We have to be loving. Are you able to see this? Ritu, does this help? Do you think this kind of a handling of the situation would have helped you?
To some degree, yes, because I can maybe specifically this example where the cousin was a very young child, like a toddler.
Yes.
In that case, making him understand was beyond his understanding capacity. And that's the reason I allowed the child to even hit and my child to take the hitting in the first place. In this situation, parents got involved, but parents are matured enough. So the situation came in control. But this is when it happens in front of parents. And my worry is beyond this, because what happens is generally when we have this generosity of spirit, you continuously imbibe this in your child that it's not good to hit. You should not be reactive. But then in his formative years, you are making him more and more tolerant towards others. But at some point, he will feel that he's only being tolerant because you cannot be for him everywhere. And to empower him, then how do you empower him?
So that is what you have to give him, a balance of courage and consideration. You have to tell him that, okay, do not take crap from anyone. Now, someone may give you crap accidentally, unknowingly. Have the courage to reach out to them and say that it hurt. This is not right. So we will use habit 5 there. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then be understood. That is a habit of communication. So we reach out to them and say, why did you do this? I never expected this from you. Why did you do this? See, bullying may not necessarily be only physical. No? Bullying may be emotional. Bullying may be very different kinds of bullying happens. All of us know this. So a courageous person would take the initiative to go to habit 5, seek to understand where this other person is coming from, and then make that person realize that whatever this person did hurt. It did not achieve the goal or the objective this other person wanted to. So many times, people, even at times as we were talking about in yesterday's session on yoga, inner engineering, we are upset. The first thing we do, we go and shout on our spouse, on our children. So it could just be a misplaced vent of some other frustration on you. And over here, you are considering this as a bullying. You just go understand why this person behaved that particular way. Give him benefit of doubt. Understand why this person behaved that particular way. And you will realize you will be making an emotional deposit to that person. That person will actually revere you much, much more. You will actually improve your relationship multifolds if you take that initiative, take the courage to reach out to him and be courageous enough to tell him that, after understanding, you may need to tell, you may not need to tell, but have the courage to reach out. And if needed, tell that it hurt and that you will not accept it. Because if there was no emotional state involved and this person just did it just like that, then the message needs to go. And you have to have the courage to tell this to the other person. See, we have to demonstrate this behavior within ourselves first, so that our children imbibe it amongst themselves. If we, in the face of violence, turn violent, if we, in the face of someone talking crap to us, give them the same crap back, do tit for tat, that is what we are giving our child. Reactive behavior. Children learn much more from our behavior, from our day-to-day living behavior, than whatever we tell them or whatever we teach them. Do you realize this? Do you agree with this? If you agree, just put a +1 in the chat window. So we have to, how to give our child is the second matter, Rutu. First is, are we demonstrating that behavior to our child? Someone misbehaved with us. Are we now misbehaving back with them? Or are we operating from a spirit of generosity and reaching out and trying to understand what had happened? Why did they behave like that? We are being kind, or are we being harsh? Because what we do will speak much more to our children than what we tell them.
But Anuj, this would be worthwhile in a long-term relationship, but for a transactional relationship, not a transactional, but relations like you meet your cousin maybe once a year, twice a year, or something like that, which are not very consistent and where the exposure is not so much. In that situation, how will you demonstrate?
So again, उस relationship में आपको नहीं manage करना, Rutu. In that relationship, you're not really worried. If you demonstrate win-win in your relationships day in and day out, win-win relationship with your husband, win-win relationship with your in-laws, win-win relationship with the maid in your house, win-win relationship with your subordinates, with your seniors, the child will automatically see this is a good way to live. He will learn by your example. You cannot take that one event and say, oh, I will demonstrate win-win only now. No, the way you are living life, you are demonstrating win-win daily. The child gets the character that I have to strive for win-win. And it is possible because I see my parents living it like that on a daily basis. See, at times, people do not realize that such a possibility exists because they've not seen a transition person around them. They've not seen a person always striving for win-win around them. Everyone around them is living in a scarcity mentality because at times, everyone in the family is like that. In the one person, the leader of the family was like that, and everyone became that. You need a transition person to now say, oh, they are operating from scarcity. I need to operate from abundance. You are the transition person then. So you demonstrate that. That is when the child will learn. Then in that 1 or 2 interactions with the cousin, the child will handle appropriately. You will see this.
Agree.
So what we live on a daily basis is more important than demonstrating it once or twice to them. And anyways, consider this situation. Consider the situation. There is a situation between you and your spouse, let us say. Very long-term relationship. A relationship where you hold a very deep bank account also. Can you accept in some event a lose so that the spouse wins? And can the spouse also accept a lose sometimes so that you win? It must already be happening, is it not? That is where you built an emotional bank account. That is where you built a rich relationship. So it is not that in every interaction you have to think of win, 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 win. Don't get paranoid about it. In some interactions, when the spouse is in a foul mood, you let them be. Because sometimes when you are in the foul mood, your spouse lets you be. And then sometimes lose win, sometimes win lose. Overall, both of you are considerate to each other. Overall, you are building a beautiful relationship, which is win-win in character. That is the overarching character of your relationship. Over here, somewhere there could be small win-lose and lose-wins. See, by default, win-lose and lose-win will go into lose-lose. But if you have courage, then you can turn a lose-win into win-win. That time the person spoke harshly to you, you accept it. If I now start to speak harshly and say, no, we have to try for win-win, you're doing wrong, what happens? The person is in emotional state. It will only make things worse. You need to rise up to the occasion and do, as we will look into habit 5, some empathic listening. You have to transition that lose-win of the moment into win-win. The way I said, the example that I just gave a little while back, where someone gave you crap, you reach out to him and say that, oh, I want to understand why you gave me crap. What happened? Are you in, like, is everything fine with you? Because I do not expect you to give me crap. Now the person opens up and shares a challenge that he or she is facing. What happens? Your relationship only gets deepened. Now you understand that person's perspective much better. You say, oh, let me see how I can help you. So you, by your initiative, by being a transition person, by whatever you did, you converted that lose-win into win-win. Otherwise, that lose-win would have deteriorated into lose-lose. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
So we are at 11:30, so it's the time for the break. If there is some more question about courage consideration matrix, we can just close that question. Then we can, take it up from this part in the next session. Even if there is some question that that comes up during the break, we can take it up in the next session. Don't worry.
Can I add one more to this?
Yes, please, Ritu.
So in case you know that the opposite person is doing it intentionally, it is very personal then, because some people are like that. In that case, how do you handle it?
Yeah, we will go to no deal. So a paradigm. Thank you, Ritu, for asking this, because I wanted to introduce this and it would have got best if we had not asked. The highest way of living this habit is a state of win-win or no deal. Either we strive to get a win-win or we don't deal. We won't go into a lose-win, lose-lose or win-lose. That is the highest level of maturity for this. So if despite your efforts to convert a lose-win into a win-win, the person insists on a lose-win, then you don't deal, because then you will lose. And that will not make you happy, na? That will not be an effective relationship. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
This could happen very well, very often with our professional collaborators. Someone who has more influence tries to just use you as a resource and does not give back the appreciation, the acknowledgement, the recognition in the papers that he or she publishes. So can you continue like this? No. What do? You say, no deal. I will not deal with you any longer. You know? We already do it like that. But with personal relationships, we forget to do this. So we can say no deal even in personal relationships, if all attempts to convert a lose-win into a win-win have failed. Okay. So how to convert a lose-win into win-win? We will see much more of it in habit 5. We will also see more of it in habit 4. See, you realize I am not able to talk about habit 4 without talking about habit 5. That is how all these 3 habits are interlinked, the habits of public victory. Okay, so I think we are 4 minutes past the session time. Let's close the session here, and we'll start again at noon. Is that okay? So see you at noon. Please join a few minutes in advance so that we can continue with this discussion. It's a very lively and good discussion we are having. Very important discussion on how to manage our relationships. So let's start it in the right earnest as soon as we start the next session. Okay. Surya, want to say something? Okay. So let's close the session now and we will meet at 12 noon. Please join a session a few minutes in advance. See you.